Hey everybody, it's Clint with Econ for Dummies. I just wanted to talk about real quick about free market environmentalism. It's a subject I don't really like to talk about because, in my opinion, the global warming is the left's war on terror. I mean, it's just a way to scare people into voting for them and keep voting for them, so they don't want to vote for anybody else. I mean, they both have their own little niches in the they obviously it's kept them in power. I mean, obviously they're doing it for a reason. Personally, global warming, I mean, I think it's kind of asinine to think that human beings, can destroy, destroy a planet that's 8 billion years old. I think it's just a little crazy. But if you really strongly believe that, and I do believe that some of the things that we put onto our planet or into our planet are detrimental, and we need to limit them. But it's not CO2. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, plants use CO2, and it's completely necessary for life on the planet. I don't really understand the logic, but let's just assume that you believe that, and I believe that. So basically, the free market solution to environmentalism, without an EPA, without the federal government enforcing anything, for starters, unless there's a one world government, which would be awful for every other use except for maybe environmental uses. You can't enforce it because the other countries could just have different laws, and then the companies that want to do things that way will just go to those countries, and they can offer their products for lower than the companies that are trying to meet the standards that those countries with higher emission standards have. For one reason a lot of people go to China. I mean, they have no environmental, there's nothing there. I mean, that's during the Olympics when they had it with Beijing, they made some of the industry in the country shut down so the air would clean up a little bit. I mean, that'll tell you something. But in my opinion, the only way that you can really solve the problem of pollution, whatever you think is polluting, is to stop buying products for companies that are not doing the things that you believe they should. And if there's not enough people, it's like democracy. If there's not enough people voting for a certain problem, then that means that the rest of the world, I mean, you can't force it on them. It's just like democracy. A true free market, anarcho-capitalism without a state, you vote with your dollars. You vote for whatever the currency would be. It'd probably be gold. But you vote with wherever you put your money. And if you don't like the way a company is doing things, you just stop buying things from them. And if enough people do that, they either realize they're going to lose money or they go bankrupt. If they stay in business, if they want to stay in business, they have to adopt the policies that the rest of the market is going towards, that other people are switching to. And the only way, I always hear argument that wouldn't solve the problem, because then the companies wouldn't do anything. They would never adopt those policies. Like if you have a serious problem with the way that they are polluting, you would stop buying from them. Otherwise, if there's not enough people doing it, it doesn't matter whether it's in this country or not. They're still going to do it. They're just going to ship the products back. We're going to lose jobs, and it's not going to solve anything because the pollution's still getting into the atmosphere. They'll just go to Mexico or China or one of those countries that have lower emission standards. So that doesn't solve the problem. The only way you can solve the problem is to go at the core, where they get their money, the consumer. And if you can convince enough consumers, that gives them incentive to switch over to another, to more green pollution standards. The EPA is controlled by special interests. I mean, it's just another bureaucracy, just like Washington. It's not some magical exception to the rule that just because it's protecting the environment, and somehow it's immune to all the corruption that happens in Washington. It's just not the case. Companies control it. They set the emission standards so they can do whatever they want. They can get away with these. They can pay for these regulations, and really that's what they lobby for. It's not to remove regulations. It's to make it so that their companies get affected less than their competition. So it makes them more competitive artificially because of government policies. And that anybody that thinks we have a free market, that there's a million different examples of how we don't, but that's just one of them. If they can, if companies are actually lobbying not to remove regulations, but to actually try to influence them as they're getting passed, because they know they can't stop them, to actually make their companies more competitive. That's just another way the government gets in the way of free market and influences winners and losers. It happens every day. Another way that the free market would solve environmental problems is on the court cases. I mean, this is something you hear from all libertarians. That part was what I think would happen. This part's more about what just libertarian theory thinks would happen as far as free markets, Austrian economics, how we think we would handle environmental issues. And they think it's court cases, and I do think so. I just think court cases are just like, I think courts can be bought off too. I think it would be a lot better than governments, because they could lose their jobs if it was a free market, true private law, free market. They would lose their ability to compete, because other people would stop using them, because obviously they are corrupt. But basically, the thought process is that if you have a grievance with somebody, you go take it to court, and that it would, in a larger sense, like say for instance, a company was polluting a water source, like a river or something. Obviously, all the people that live on that river, all the people that make their living on that, fishing on that river or whatever, could go to a court, and they could all get together and have a class action lawsuit, and that would work. But what if it's just one person getting affected? And then it gets a little fuzzy. But I do think the court systems would be much more beneficial to individuals, because now we basically have the system where they let them pollute to a certain level, and then they start fining them and start having ways of keeping them from doing that, but they still let them get to that level. So there's no incentive for them to go lower, because everybody's at that level. So all their competition's at that level. But if there's a consumer-driven lowering of pollution, then it causes every company to do it, because in order to compete, they would have to. So, and then there's the competition that comes into it with the pollution. Then if it really gets to where the market really values the environment more than they do their bottom or their dollar into their pocketbooks, then they'll start competing with who's the greenest. I mean, they're already starting to do that. If you really pay attention, they're starting to. A lot of press PR is basically about green. A lot of commercials like we're going green. All the other stuff. I saw one that's pretty funny the other day, that the guy's saying we're going to start printing on the backs of other memos, and this woman picks up one and says, "What's the corporate or something to do with benefits that they get?" And he jumps across the table and starts grabbing, puts it in his mouth, starts eating it. But they're starting to get to that point where people are starting. It's becoming fashionable to be green. And that's what I'm talking about, a consumer-driven environmentalism. And that's, I think, the ideal source, because then people that, don't care and think it's all a bunch of crap like me wouldn't care, and will just buy the product, the best quality and cheapest. So, I mean, it would, it gives freedom. And the more people you convert to your way of thinking, the more it happens. That's the way it should be. It shouldn't be where a minority controls the majority. I mean, it should be the other. It should be the other way around. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that way. But that's my my free market environmentalism. So this is Clint with Econ for Dummies, and thank you for listening.